The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is reusing the engine from the Link's Awakening 2019 remake. So, can the Link's Awakening 2019 remake help me predict some of the objects that Zelda will be able to duplicate in the new game? Let's find out. Hey guys, what you're about to see is an edited down version of a live stream where I went around the map on Link's Awakening 2019 Remake to try and make predictions about what objects Zelda might be able to duplicate in the upcoming game, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I figured this would be a good test since it's an asset reusing sequel based on that game. If you want to be part of one of these live streams in the future and be part of the on-screen chat to offer your own suggestions like some of the ones you'll see here today, you can follow me over at twitch.tv/Azran127. Enjoy! At the beginning of the stream, I looked back over the Echoes of Wisdom reveal trailer. I wanted to see what objects were already established from on-screen menus. Those objects included the wooden table, wooden crate, blocks of water, shrubs, a trampoline, bed, a pot like the kind that Link can pick up and break, and two types of rocks, one being more of a boulder. And with all that established, let's get into my wandering around the map. I was having mic problems during the live stream, so this is post-commentary to make up for it. At the beginning, I started by going to Dampé's shack, creating a custom dungeon using various rooms from across Link's Awakening. This felt more efficient than going around to the individual dungeons to check what was inside them. At the beginning, I noted that there were torches we could potentially echo, and these could be sources of light. Next, we come up to a room where there are pushable blocks, and there's an enemy that likes to hug the edge of the blocks. There is definite puzzle potential if Zelda can echo pushable blocks and then create something that guides one of these fiery enemies to a destination. We briefly enter a room with lava, so I note that, like the water blocks, we may be able to make lava as well. In the next room down, there is a treasure chest, and I do wonder if there is some use for Zelda to make an echo of an empty treasure chest. I doubt she can make an echo of a treasure chest that has something in it, because that would mean infinite resources. In the next room, I encounter some choo-choos which pop out of the ground from nowhere. This could be an interesting enemy to implement as an echo, since Zelda could use it as a landmine. When the enemy walks by them, they pop out of the ground. And if you're a Sega fan, you might even call that a choo-choo rocket. We see a 2D section in this dungeon as well, featuring a Goomba. One has to wonder if 2D sections will be a part of Echoes of Wisdom, but more importantly, I'd like to note that the Goombas are immune to spike damage. So I also wonder if Zelda may have a different interaction with that enemy type, and that she can use them to ride over large groups of spikes. I also included a room with a bunch of conveyor belts. I think there's a lot of puzzle potential with being able to lay down your own conveyor belts. But then, that got me thinking. It might be difficult to make good use of a conveyor belt if you're limited to placing objects directly in front of you. And that got me in the chat in the headspace of Tri-Rod upgrades. Link's Master Sword is no stranger to being upgraded over the course of a Legend of Zelda game, so the Tri-Rod may also have upgrades during its runtime. Perhaps at first you can only place objects right in front of you, but later you'll be able to spawn them at a range. This would make conveyors more useful, as you could use them to retrieve objects that are perhaps across a chasm. I added one room full of rupees, and then put in a Wallmaster trap, just as a reminder that Wallmasters are a part of the Zelda universe, and that they could very well be an echo enemy for Zelda to use. That said, I don't really think that we're going to see the ability to duplicate rupees, unless they tie it to some sort of joke. In Link's Awakening, you can be labeled a thief for stealing an item from the item shop. Perhaps that will come back as an Easter egg if Zelda tries to echo rupees and use the counterfeits to pay for stuff. Or maybe the game would even punish you by saying that any duplicate rupees are actually rupors, and you lose rupees for even having that thought. It may also be possible to lay down the false floor tiles that spin up and around and then try to hit you. It could be a good trap for enemies. And of course, at the end of the dungeon, we have our boss enemy. Part of me also wonders if, since we can duplicate regular enemies, if Zelda will also be able to make some version of boss enemies as a reward for defeating them. I don't think you would get quite the same level of power that you would from the original boss, but maybe you get a slightly reduced version of that boss. Of course, some bosses occupy more than one tile space, so that gets us in the other headspace of possible Tri-Rod upgrades. Maybe range won't change, but perhaps the size of objects that we can lay down will. We've only seen one-tile objects as far as I know, but perhaps with enough Tri-Rod upgrades we can place larger objects. After my custom dungeon, I stopped by a few NPC houses, and I noted a few unique assets to their homes that are used as decoration, like the heart-shaped shrubs in Tracy's room, or the bricks that make up the castle, or this one yellow flower in the home in Martha's Bay. And that also got me thinking in a different vein. There's all this unique geometry that they made for Link's Awakening that hasn't been reused since. It would be a shame to let it go to waste since you're already reusing that engine. So perhaps there is a side quest in the game that operates like Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer. I can imagine a Terrytown type sequence where Zelda gets to assemble a home or the interiors of homes, and that's where you would get access to some of these more unique objects that may not serve a more practical purpose for adventuring, but would look nice. It would also just be a fun little side mode where you can decorate the space to your liking and then share the results via screenshot. And if you can upgrade the size of objects you can lay down with the Tri-Rod, then you can unlock more features for the decorating mode as you advance in the adventure. Of course, naturally, that begs the question. If you can design interiors, can you also design dungeons? Link's Awakening introduced the concept to a degree with the Chamber Stones. You can reuse rooms from the existing dungeons and reconfigure them to a certain degree. There are obvious limitations like where the doorways go and how many treasure chests and etc. But given that Zelda has an object that lets her place things wherever she wants, this could be the opportunity to finally get a proper 2D dungeon editor. The dream would be to have that with online functionality as well, but when it comes to Nintendo and online stuff, I don't get my hopes up. I returned to Mabe Village and encountered a Kuko, and there's already a lot of speculation online about Zelda being able to duplicate those and sick them on the enemies. We all know how powerful they are in Zelda games. But there's another animal here who I would love to make a return, and that's Bow Wow. We know that Link got to walk Bow Wow around during Link's Awakening, and I think Zelda should get the same courtesy. Not far from the village is a room where Link can read up on tutorials in the various books. A tutorial menu would be much better from a UI perspective, but it is possible that if they want to reuse the idea of these tutorial books, that Zelda can reread them whenever she wants by summoning an echo of whichever book she read. I took a quick detour down to the beach and encountered the urchin enemies that are modeled off of Gordos from the Kirby series. It would be fun to have those back. And as I kept wandering around the world, I got in the headspace of some echoes must be context sensitive in order to work. The trailer shows one example where Zelda is able to climb the webs produced by spiders that come down from the ceiling, and she places those herself. But if you tried to place one of those spiders away from the ceiling, could they even fulfill their purpose? There are some enemies in the Link's Awakening overworld that spawn from holes, so perhaps you can't recreate those unless you have a hole to place them in. We had one other wild idea as we were wandering the overworld. We encountered the wooden crate, which we already know that Zelda can echo, And in Link's Awakening, these are hookshot targets for Link. So part of me wonders if they're going to call upon the Spirit Tracks mentality of having the two work together. Maybe Zelda does encounter Link at some point in the adventure and has to help him navigate a dungeon by using the right objects. If she summons a wooden crate, he can hookshot over to it. Could also be a side mode where two players each take control of one person, and one person builds the dungeon while the other has to navigate out. Would be a fun co-op opportunity. Here you can see the pause menu with my 3 empty bottles, and it got me thinking we might not see those in this game because Zelda can just make a bottle. Of course, this begs the question, will you be limited to a certain number of echoes depending on the object? Because certainly you don't want infinite empty bottles, they're too powerful. I mean, they've been used to beat Ganon in some games. Towards the end here I have just a couple other quick notes. In Tall Tall Heights, you encounter these suspension bridges, and I think those pieces could also be used in a meaningful way to help Zelda cross gaps. Maybe they have to be attached to a cliff face like the second bridge that we see in the footage, but it would be fun to build one. And towards the end of the stream, I noticed that in Link's Awakening, Link is unable to cut down the signposts. He's been able to in some of the other past Zelda games. But it has me thinking, since Zelda can make a signpost, we've already seen that in the trailer, it could potentially serve as a shield in a combat situation. If not even Link can break it, then how is Ganon's forces gonna stand a chance? Link's Awakening has various fast travel points, which you can see in these glowing blue portals. It reminded me of the travel medallion in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. If Zelda creates an echo of one of these warp points, she may be able to create a custom warp point, much like the travel medallion. Of course, in that case, I think she would be limited to 1 on the entire overworld. And this last one is more of a joke, but Link's Awakening does have a fishing minigame, and I'd like to point out, it's not called the Tri-Staff, it's not called the Tri-Sword, it's called the Tri-Rod. And you know what you fish with? A rod. So certainly, by the end of Echoes of Wisdom, Zelda will unlock the true potential of the Tri-Rod and use it as a fishing rod. Thank you for watching. Consider leaving a like or subscribing if you enjoyed this, and let me know what your predictions are for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom down in the comments. Bye! Let's make graves while we're at it. For our enemies!